Before we get started, there will be spoilers for the 1000-Year Blood War arc of Bleach in the video to come. Hello everyone and welcome to the last video on the channel for 2023. It's been a hell of a year for Bleach. The 1000-Year Blood War arc anime continues to go strong with an incredible showing, and I can't wait for what's next. Now, I wanted to end off the year with a celebration of some of my absolute favourite characters in Bleach. It's been a while, and the last time I made this video, the channel had just hit 10,000 subscribers about 3 years ago, and it's safe to say things have changed a little bit since then. My appreciation for certain figures in the world of Bleach has grown considerably, while for others it might have dropped a little bit, and some faces might find themselves a little lower than they were previously. One thing remains true, however, even after so very long. Bleach's wonderful cast of characters remains perhaps its greatest asset, and there really were so many that could have made the top 10 but just missed out. Asnod, Senjumaru, Rose, Akon, Tsukishima, Stark, there's genuinely too many to count. But honestly, too many awesome characters to fit your top 10 list is a pretty good problem for a series to have. Speaking of which, I've got 3 honourable mentions to address first. 13 always feels like such a fitting number for Bleach rankings. And even then, even after 13, I still feel like I've left a lot of characters out in the cold. Before we get started, however, I just want to say a huge thank you to each and every one of you for your continued support throughout 2023. I really do appreciate it, and I am very grateful to be able to talk about my favourite series with like-minded fellow fans all around the world. It really is the absolute best feeling, so thank you all again so very much. But without further ado, this is my list, my top 10 favourite Bleach characters plus a few honourable mentions to close off 2023. As always, let me know your favourite characters in the comments down below. Alright, let's begin. So, like I said, to kickstart the list, we've got 3 honourable mentions. Now, these are in no particular order, but they're all characters who came the closest to snatching a spot on the final list, but just missed out by a hair. First up, we've got the Emperor of the Vandenreich and the Quincy King himself, Yhwach. Yhwach is currently making a huge splash as the villain of the 1000-Year Blood War arc anime and reasserting himself as one of Bleach's biggest badasses. I love how different he feels to Aizen as a main villain. Yhwach is all business, and that's predominantly why he succeeds, crushing the Soul Society and trampling the Royal Palace to achieve his goals. For me, Yhwach is power personified, from his hulking, black-cloaked form that carries immense presence on the page to his domineering and commanding personality. He works extremely well as a final antagonist for the series. I do wish his motivation wasn't quite so convoluted and obscured, because it's really quite interesting and a lot more layered than the character would outwardly have you think. And I think Yhwach as well becomes a much less compelling character once he absorbs the Soul King, but he still remains a fantastic addition towards the end of Bleach. The next honourable mention is a newcomer on the list, the captain of the 12th Division, the maniacal mad scientist, Mayuri Kurotsuchi. Now, I've always liked Mayuri. I enjoy that he's a divisive figure in the community, much in the same way the Gote 13 is forced to weigh his usefulness as an asset against his many atrocities. Of course, the character's design is completely unparalleled. You can tell he's one of Kubo's favourites, and I love what the 1000-Year Blood War arc does for the character. Before the final arc, Mayuri was an enjoyable, if one-note monster, but he really shines in the war with the Quincy's, finally acting a little more selflessly and taking the reins on the battle in a big way. There's development here which is genuinely great to watch, such as him putting aside his hatred for Kisuke Urahara in order to work together to combat the Vandenreich's offensive. Plus, Mayuri gets one of the arc's best battles. Speaking of being transformed by the 1000-Year Blood War arc, our final honourable mention is another newcomer to the list. Retsu, or should I say Yachiru Unohana, the former captain of the 4th Division. I'll be honest, before the 1000-Year Blood War arc, I had very little interest in Unohana, and why would I? Kubo barely used the healer, and there wasn't much to her character outside of vague teases of something more, perhaps something sinister lurking beneath the surface. And when Unohana was revealed to be the first Kenpachi and original captain of the 11th Division, it was the shot in the arm the character needed, as Kubo pulled off one of the biggest and best twists in the series, revealing the monster beneath the matronly appearance. Yachiru Unohana is a fascinating character and an eye-opening insight into the world of Bleach from 1,000 years ago. Her fight with Zaraki is an elegant, blood-soaked dance, and one of the best fights Zaraki ever has. It's just a shame that Unohana's renaissance is cut abruptly short, as she's killed in what felt like a totally unnecessary sacrifice. Alright, but with the honourable mentions out of the way, we're starting off my list properly, and we have the former captain of the 7th Division, Sajin Komamura, coming in at number 10. Much like with Rose, I've always advocated for Komamura. He's a steadfast, stalwart member of the Gotei 13, unflinchingly loyal and devoted to the Soul Society and to his friends. There's no denying that Komamura's poor track record has turned him into something of a joke over the years, but there is a lot to love about this character, from his completely unique and intriguing design stemming from a mysterious past involving a Wolfman clan of sinners, to his immense power and incredible towering bankai, a living suit of armour that still inspires awe in me with its excellent iconic appearance even today. On top of that, Komamura's relationship with Tosen ignited one of the best fights of the entire series, and his descent down the dark path of revenge in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc meant that while he exited the story too soon, his final outing was one of the best of the bunch, sending Komamura off with a brutal, emotional gut punch, along with a fantastic twist for the ages. Coming in at number 9, we have one of the most enduring and iconic characters in Bleach, despite having been dead for hundreds of chapters by the time the story comes to an end. The former captain of the 3rd Division, Gin Ichimaru. In many ways, my love for Gin is rooted in nostalgia. When I first began reading and watching Bleach all those years ago, it was Gin who captivated me most of all. His sly, cunning nature combined with his wickedly off-putting design made for a truly gripping villain at the time, and the character only became more beloved as his true nature and motives were revealed. Gin's ultimate sacrifice is rooted in love and devotion, and his entire character arc is one of tragedy. His valiant effort to destroy Aizen leading to one of Bleach's most memorable and emotional scenes, all the while setting up the final battle of the entire Rankar arc. There's an argument to be made that Gin was underused in the series, but a part of me thinks he was used just the right amount, ensuring you never forgot about the cold-blooded snake in the grass. That being said, I wouldn't have minded him getting a proper fight, even just once. Moving on to number 8, we have a new addition to the list for 2023, the current captain of the 13th Division, Rukia Kuchiki. I've always liked Rukia. She's an easy character to admire. Despite her position early in the series as something of a deuteragonist, Rukia has always felt like the underdog, pulling herself up by the bootstraps to prove herself to those that matter the most to her. And while her relevance definitely waxes and wanes throughout the story, she remains its beating heart. Rukia's growth arc is perhaps one of the best written in Bleach as well. Watching her go from the runt of the litter, desperate to gain Byakuya's favour, to a vice captain and then even a captain by the end, is amazing, and she earns every accolade through blood, sweat and tears, struggling at each step to take down powerful foes, including terrifying Espada and monstrous Sternritter. By the end of the series, when we see the new Gotei 13 in full, there are few more deserving of that spot at the top than Rukia. It helps too that her bankai is one of the most stunningly elegant designs that Kubo has ever concocted, and the 1,000-Year Blood War arc anime made sure to do it justice. In 7th place, we have the current captain of the 6th Division and Rukia's older brother, Byakuya Kuchiki. Byakuya is unfailingly cool and wields one of my favourite Zanpakuto in the series, Senbon Sakura, whose glittering pink sakura petals have been used to confront many an iconic villain, including fan favourites like Asnod and Tsukishima. I love Byakuya's vibe, his no-nonsense approach to battle, especially when he often ends up dealing with tricky psychological enemies. It's incredible to witness. Much like Rukia before him, I think Byakuya is privy to one of, if not the absolute best character arc in the entire series, going from the central antagonistic defender of Soul Society authority and tradition to the utmost extreme, to a true believer in Ichigo and his ideals, willing to fight to the death for him if necessary. Byakuya is one of the most reliable and iconic Shinigami within the Gotei 13, a model officer of the highest renown, looked up to by all around him, and that makes it all the more heartbreaking when he's nearly killed during the first Quincy invasion. The humbled captain delivering us one of the best scenes in all of Bleach, when he completes his arc by tearfully placing the burden of protecting the Soul Society upon Ichigo's shoulders. It's masterfully done. Byakuya remains one of Bleach's greatest and most consistent characters to this day. Just missing out on the top 5 this time around is the leader of Execution and the first substitute Shinigami, Ginjo Kugo. Ginjo feels like such a weird character to me for a number of reasons. There was a time where he was all over this series, appearing in virtually every single chapter for a stretch, and then, once the Lost Agent arc comes to an end, he's gone, only to fleetingly return in bare-bones appearances in the Thousand Year Blood War arc that, let's face it, probably didn't satisfy anyone. The thing is, Ginjo is an awesome presence to have in Bleach. A smooth-talking, down-to-brass-tacks kind of guy with the slick look of a greasy gang member who doesn't feel like he belongs anywhere. I love the fact that once the Lost Agent arc is over and the Fullbringers are mostly disbanded, he feels like a wandering rogue, a nomad who doesn't subscribe to any of the current factions. And I always appreciated as well how in-your-face he could be, how Ichigo spent the entire arc freaking out and how Ginjo simply wasn't having it, despite being the architect of Ichigo's misery. Ginjo's villainous turn may have been obvious to some, but I thought Kubo did a great job with the layers of misdirection and how smart it actually was, and his final battle with Ichigo is emotional and one of the series' best final fights. Ginjo fascinates me, to be honest. He's like the older brother Ichigo never had, a dark reflection and tragic character all rolled into one. I just wish the source material had delved into his backstory. He deserved it. As we reach my top 5 favourite characters in Bleach, in 5th place we have the 4th Espada, Ulquiorra. Acting as the statuesque main villain for the majority of the Arrancar arc, at least until his master finally steps in, Ulquiorra is one of Bleach's scariest bad guys. He's ruthlessly efficient, succeeding in defeating Ichigo not once, but twice, and even killing our hero the second time round. Where many of the Espada waste time and fool about, Ulquiorra is the complete opposite. A character with which Kubo could deliver a terrifyingly laser-focused and effective villain within the Arrancar army. His design as well is completely iconic. The sad clown look is simple, but one of Bleach's absolute best, elevated even further as he becomes a truly demonic figure by the time he reaches his Segunda Etapa, and the character is utterly synonymous with the series at this point, like many on this list. His final battle against Ichigo atop the dome, beneath the pitch-black sky of Hueco Mundo, took the story to its darkest place it had ever gone at the time, where both Ichigo and we, the reader, learned the depths of despair. As I mentioned in my recent video on the top 3 Espada, Ulquiorra and his fight was so good, it unintentionally soured us on the Espada still yet to come by the time he eventually died. And what a death too. The character's gradual but evident transformation as he wrestles with his own humanity and understanding, making for a somber and beautiful climax to the 4th Espada's journey. Grimmjow may have been Ichigo's rival during the Arrancar arc, but Ulquiorra was the end boss. Voted the most popular Bleach character of all time by you guys in my massive 100,000 subscriber popularity poll. Remember that? We'll have to do another one of those at some point soon. Kisuke Urahara is my 4th place pick in 2023. Another completely iconic character, this time with a completely iconic hat. Kisuke is the series' smartest man, inspiring grudges and rivalries in some of Bleach's greatest minds, like Aizen and Mayuri, while wielding another of my favourite Zanpakuto, Benihime. In many ways, Kisuke laid the template for what would become my favourite style of personality in Bleach, the laid-back, outwardly goofy mastermind who can switch in an instant to reveal their truly dangerous darkness underneath. Kisuke perhaps does this better than anyone else, except for maybe one other figure still yet to appear on the list. But more importantly, Kisuke is a fierce driver of the plot, acting as the puppet master behind the curtain, pulling the strings of virtually everyone in the story. I love his mentality, his morally questionable desire to protect the status quo no matter the cost, yet he strives to do good on a human level at the same time. Kisuke is Bleach's greatest, most accomplished chess master. Somehow, you know everything links back to this humble owner of a simple candy store. Alright, we've reached the top 3. These are my 3 favourite characters in Bleach. Remember to leave your lists in the comments below. I'm interested to see if we have any crossover. But in 3rd place is my boy Sternritter D, the death-dealing and a member of Yhwach's Schutzstaffel, Askin Naklavar. Askin is a character like no other in Bleach. Sure, he looks like a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure version of Aizen, but that's where any similarities come to an abrupt end. I'm going to make a proclamation here and now. Askin is the best character introduced in Bleach after the time skip. In many ways, Askin is the personality type I outlined during Kisuke's section, but dialed up to 11. On the surface, depending on present company at the time, Askin can be extremely silly, goofy, and almost cartoonish in his bumbling buffoonery, but it's all, mostly, an act. Underneath the facade lies a sly, smart, and above all else, savvy villain. Askin is a weirdly meta character, as though Kubo inserted himself into the story as an author surrogate. He's totally genre-aware, capable of recognizing, avoiding, and even dismantling many of the very tropes found in Bleach itself, combining that knowledge with his creative and uniquely toxic shrift to be one of the most dangerous enemies in the series. Seriously, at times it's like Kubo is lampooning his own writing with Askin when Askin calls out something that other villains do in the same series. What's so good about Askin, though, is that he continuously defies belief. Surrounded by a cohort of near godlike angelic warriors, Askin is, for the most part, just a guy. And it's extremely endearing to watch him flounder somewhere he almost certainly feels like he doesn't belong. Yet he keeps up the pace no problem. That is crucial. While his motivation to see the worlds destroyed out of curiosity betrays his true nature, revealing his ugly side, there's no denying that Askin is a wonderful character with a surprising amount of heart. In 2nd place, taking the silver medal, we have the theatrical current captain of the 1st Division and the current captain commander of the Gotei 13, Kyoraku Shunsui. Kyoraku is one of the few characters who really does have it all, in my opinion. His design is absolutely some of Kubo's best work, involving numerous layers and elements to create a character that's just plain interesting to simply look at, and it works on multiple levels too. The flowery pink kimono not only illustrates his flamboyance and playfulness, but hints at his tragic backstory, while his straw hat is just the perfect instrument for some awesome visuals, often covering Kyoraku's eyes in shadow at just the right time for the ultimate effect. His Zanpakuto Katen Kyokotsu is possibly my favourite one in Bleach. The Shikai design is so unbelievably cool and unique, while its ability is incredibly inventive, at the same time being fittingly monstrous and complex for a captain of his level. Kyoraku's foppish attitude and jovial personality are offset by some of the coolest character traits ever. Despite his demeanor, he's incredibly perceptive, experienced, and devious. His take on war means he sees himself as the bad guy in a fight, and so he's not above using any underhanded means if it scores him the win. Kyoraku was always an awesome character, a mysterious elder within the Gotei 13 who commanded respect and awe, but he completely broke out of his shell in the Thousand Year Blood War arc, becoming the unorthodox, daring leader the Soul Society needed in their time of crisis. Plus, he gained an eye patch as if his character design could somehow be improved. Kubo knew how to do it. I really do think Kyoraku is one of Kubo's best ever characters, and I think the final arc pushing him to the forefront worked absolute wonders. I'd argue he is definitely one of the most popular captains now, and for good reason. He's a masterclass in every facet of character design. However, there can only be one character to take the top spot, to sit upon the vacant throne of heaven, as it were. Those of you who have watched even a fraction of my videos most likely already know who the winner is, and he wouldn't have it any other way. Of course, my favourite Bleach character is the former captain of the 5th Division turned leader of the Arrancar and treacherous main villain, Sosuke Aizen. I know, I hold my hands up, he's a pretty basic pick, but I can't help it. Aizen is the ultimate villain of Bleach for many reasons. He's unspeakably powerful, capable of annihilating multiple captains at once, but at the same time he's reserved, considered, calculating. He's a monster who's committed truly heinous atrocities in the name of furthering his own goals, but at the same time he's a self-confessed pariah, dedicating himself to overthrowing a sordid system to righting the wrongs of corruption in his eyes. Does that make him a good person? Absolutely not. Make no mistake, Aizen is evil, but he's fascinating. His design is simple but perfect. I wouldn't change a thing. Kubo's ability to turn the warmest, most kind-hearted looking man into the devil with just a few strokes of his pen and some slight alterations is remarkable even today, and his Kyoka Suigetsu is one of the series' most famous Zanpakuto, helping to deliver one of Bleach's all-time most iconic moments, one that transcended the series itself into the mainstream. Like Kisuke before him, Aizen has a nefarious hand in almost every event of the story, and his villainy knows no bounds. Its scope can range from the world-ending to the intimate, his callous actions in Turn Back the Pendulum cementing his place as the series' most reviled traitor. Yet, his altruistic actions in the Thousand Year Blood War arc cementing him as someone who can possibly be redeemed down the line. You never know with this character, his allegiances lie truly with himself. To that end, Aizen works because he's a force of nature. He doesn't have a tragic backstory or a delicate weakness to exploit. He's simply an unbelievably powerful Shinigami who decided he can and should change the world, to take it into his own hands and reshape it. Whether he's espousing a lengthy speech about godhood, using his absolute hypnosis to manipulate those around him, or just dominating every scene he's in through sheer force of presence alone, Aizen is Bleach's ultimate villain and its best character, and he's my favourite. But that's it for my top 10 favourite characters in Bleach 2023 edition. Things have changed a little since the last time I put this list together, and it's interesting to see who managed to climb the ladder and who ultimately fell off. Remember to let me know your favourite characters down in the comments below. And as always, I want to end by saying a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. I really appreciate each and every one of you so very much. Thank you so much for supporting me over there. And if you like what I do here on YouTube, you too can support me over on Patreon as well to get your name in the credits just like this and to get every video I release absolutely ad-free. Before I go, I just want to say one last enormous thank you for your support once again this year. 2023 has been another amazing year, both for the channel and for Bleach, and I'm truly grateful you've stuck with me. Until I see you again in 2024, I hope you've had a fantastic year, and I hope the new year is just as good to you as well. Happy New Year, and until next time, I'll catch you later, and I'll see you then.